Hello, myself Dr. Dinesh Patil. Welcome to my channel Digital Forensics for Beginners. In the series of video as part of this channel, I will elaborate on the basic concepts of digital forensics, theoretical and practical demonstration of Windows Registry Forensics, Ubuntu File System Forensics, volatile memory forensics to reconstruct the user activities from the volatile memory dump and to find out the presence of malicious software. Also, I will be covering the Ubuntu web browser forensics and network packet forensics. Apart from this, I will also cover the latest happening in the digital forensics. To begin with, we'll start with the introduction to the digital forensics. Uh, we'll start with the history of the digital forensics. In the 90s, the computer forensic term was prevalent since at that time the computer with or without internet facility was being used to commit the cybercrime. In order to find out the cyber criminal, forensic investigation was performed, and this was termed as computer forensics. Later on, by the year 2000, handheld devices with the network facility were being widely used, and the cybercrime were not just committed by the computer but by using these handheld devices as well. Now, to do the forensic investigation of these various kinds of electronic devices, a common term was coined as digital forensics. Digital forensics is a branch of forensic science. In the year 1978, the first computer crime was recognized in the Florida, USA, and the term computer forensics was used in the year 1992. In the year 2000, the first computer forensic laboratory was established in the USA. As per the Digital Forensic Research Workshop, digital forensics is defined as the use of scientifically derived and proven methods toward the preservation, collection, validation, identification, analysis, interpretation, documentation, and presentation of digital evidence derived from digital sources for the purpose of facilitating or furthering the reconstructions of events found to be criminal or helping to anticipate unauthorized actions shown to be disruptive to planned operations. In short, whenever cybercrime occurs, digital forensic investigator identifies the storage device where the digital evidence can be available or can be found out. Then the investigator extracts the digital evidence from this storage device and perform the analysis to conclude the kind of crime occurred and the perpetrator of the crime. The forensic investigator is then required to present this evidence in the court of the law so that the culprit can be punished. So, what are the types of cybercrime? So, first of all, we should know what is a cybercrime. Cybercrime is a criminal activity that uses a computer network, or a network device to cause the crime. So, not just the computer or a network of computers have been used to cause the cybercrime, but nowadays the handheld devices such as the mobiles, these are also being used to cause the cyber crimes. Those who commit the cyber crimes, they are called as the cyber criminals. Now, this threat to the information on the storage device, the computer, or maybe on the handheld device comes from the malicious insider or from the external actors. The malicious insider are those people who works inside an organization, and sometimes they side with the rivals or maybe the external force to an organization, and they steal the information and hand over those information to the rivals of an organization. The malicious insider do all these things, so it may be for getting the financial advantage or maybe for getting taking some revenge from the organization because of some issue that have occurred with that particular employee. Maybe disrespecting of that particular employee by the organization or by not providing the kind of increments or the promotion in the post of that employee. So that particular person becomes to have some grudge on the organization and take some revenge by handing over some sensitive details of the organization. So there are those people are called as a malicious insider, and the people who are working, not working, but those who are outside of the organization and they want to penetrate or they want to infiltrate in the networks of computer of an organization or an yeah, or on the individual computers and to uh, extract the information or steal the information from those computers or the network of computers. They are called as external actors or the hackers. Now, what are the types of cybercrime that are being committed are hacking or cracking, malicious code intrusion, email fraud, financial fraud, identity theft, cyberbullying, and industrial espionage. So, one by one, we'll look at all these cybercrimes. So hacking or the cracking. So whenever for unauthorized access to a computer, a network of computers by breaching the security for illicit purpose is being made, it is called as a hacking of that particular computer or the networks of computer. So the people, those who are called as hacker, they infiltrate into a particular computer or a network of computer by breaching the security which is provided to the individual computer system or to the networks of computers. So the hackers they use do it, all these things for gaining some purpose, maybe for getting some stealing the information or for getting some financial advantage. So that is being done by the hackers. Now, what are the types of the hackers? So we can have the three types of the hackers: the black hat hackers, white hat hackers, and the gray hat hackers. The black hat hackers are the bad people. They are having the technical knowledge, and also they know how to. They know the details about the operating system, the networks. That means how that particular. That means one can infiltrate into a network, how to breach the security. So all those technical knowledge the black hat hackers they used to have, and they infiltrate into a particular computer system or a network of computers by breaching the security. So once they enter into a particular system or network of computers, they steal the information or may they corrupt the systems or may they crash the system. So that is being done by the black hat hackers. Now they are also called as a cracker. Black hat hackers also are called as the crackers. White hat hackers, those are the good people. So sometimes the organization they employ such kinds of white hat hackers. They are also called as ethical hackers. In order to find out the vulnerability in the security system of an organization, the white hat hackers have been hired by a particular organization. So they try to identify the vulnerability of a net security system of the particular organization. Then the gray hat hackers are the having the characteristic of both black hat hacker and the white hat hacker. So it depends on the circumstances what the gray hat hackers do. So neither the gray hat hackers have been hired by any organization, but sometimes they infiltrate into the computer system or the network of computers of an organization, and they say identify the vulnerabilities. So when they contact this vulnerability, they contact to the organization, saying that they had identified the particular vulnerability, and they ask some kind of a remuneration for that. But if the organization denies that, so then they turns into a black hat hacker. So they might use that vulnerability to do any kind of a crime activities by maybe stealing or maybe crashing the system. So that is being done by the grey hat hacker. So it depends on the circumstances whether the hacker will become a black hat or the white hat hackers. Now another types of cybercrime is the malicious code intrusion. So there are various types of malicious softwares are there, and these malicious software like a virus, the Trojan horse virus, maybe the worms, rootkits, then we have the ransomware. All those are the malicious software, or we can call it as a malware. So these particular malware, whenever they are installed or downloaded onto a particular system, they might do the various kinds of damage to the information onto that system. Sometimes they may steal the information, maybe the password. Okay, so maybe some information about login details. So those details have been stolen by those particular kind of malicious softwares, and sometimes they may crash the system, maybe they may corrupt the files. So that is being also being done by the malicious softwares. So how a particular malicious software intrusion happens? So they can be downloaded as a payload, or by visiting to a malicious website, or by using certain USB device, or by connecting to a particular public Wi-Fi. As a payload means a particular, let's say a particular user on a computer system had access a particular file which is to be downloaded. Now, if a particular malicious software is attached to this particular file which is to be downloaded, so along with the downloaded file, the malicious software will also get downloaded on the computer system, and it will start running. So that kind of problem may happen, and then it will do whatever the damage as per the code that it is having. So it will work. It will do that task. Visit to a malicious website means what? Suppose a particular the user visit, that means types a URL where which is going for a malicious website, which is having its so many kinds of malicious softwares. So along with the web page, that particular malicious software will also get downloaded at the system, and they will do their task. USB device, some people, maybe the malicious insider, they can have that particular software, malicious software in their USB device, and they will connect to a particular system because they are having the access to that system. And what they will do, they will install the particular malware onto that particular system, and the malware will start working and will cause the various kinds of issues with that system. Maybe stealing the information, maybe crashing, all those things will be done by that virus. Similarly, the connection to by connection connecting to a public Wi-Fi, the malicious software can also be downloaded at our place. Like if you connect to a public Wi-Fi, and what will happen? The worms which are not required to be downloaded, they will get automatically downloaded at our place. So whenever the connection is established of your computer system to a public Wi-Fi, and if that public Wi-Fi is infected with the worms, so automatically the worms will come at our system and they will do the task like corrupting or crashing, corrupting your file itself, so that those files can't open. So it depends on the coding of this particular malicious software, what they will do on our system. Now the another kind of a cybercrime is the email fraud. So the email fraud is being done by the cyber criminal to have some personal gain or to damage an individual by means of a email. So what are the fraud techniques? Okay, email fraud techniques like a phishing, domain spoofing. So phishing means what? A particular cyber criminal sends an email containing the VCS kind of a link, and when a particular user click on that particular vicious link, he is directed to a particular web page where he is asked to, or where he is due to enter some personal details so that he can get some kind of a awards. When the user enters his detailed personality like a user name, then address, or maybe the card details, so that information goes automatically to the criminal. So that way the phishing kind of a fraud happens. Then domain spoofing. So what the cyber criminal does, it creates it uses the same domain of the organization of an individual. So whenever suppose some mail is to be transferred, and suppose that cyber criminal has used the domain of the organization of an individual, the person receiving that particular email from the domain, which is having the domain name, so he will consider that okay, that is authenticated email. Sometimes the cyber criminal also receive the authenticated information from the sender, so that kind of possibility might also comes where that authenticated mail might have some sensitive information. Then another type of financial fraud is cybercrime is the financial fraud. In the financial fraud, someone money is being stolen by misleading or deceptive. Okay, suppose you are having the money onto your bank, or maybe you are doing some transaction. During that particular transaction, also your money can be lost because you are trying to send the money to the legal person, or it may be directed to some another account. So that will be happening in the financial fraud. So what are the types of the financial fraud that can happen? Like investment fraud, mortgage and lending fraud, mass marketing fraud, and personal financial fraud. Investment fraud is selling investment with the false or misleading information. Nowadays, so many we are having the share markets where we are doing the investment. So some people may sell those kind of investment without maybe by giving some false information. So that is investment fraud. Mortgage and lending fraud involves the taking the loans in someone else's name. So that means someone tries the particular cyber criminal try to pretend that he is someone else and the loan is taken in his name. So that is the loan will be credited to that particular some person name. So he will be in trouble with that. The mass marketing fraud involves raising the money through fraudulent organization and running away once the money is collected. So in the mass marketing fraud, what happens? So some money is being raised through fraudulent organization. So many scams had happened throughout the world where some fake organization is being created and the money is being the people or the so many people they deposit the money in that particular fake organization, thinking that they will get some money being doubled. and once sufficient amount of his money is collected by the particular person who has started that initiative, so he will run away with the money. So that happens with the mass marketing fraud. And another is the personal financial fraud, involves the stealing someone else's money, financial details such as the credit card details, and taking out the money by using those details. Suppose somehow some person, some criminal get access to the credit card details of an individual, or maybe have got some information, or he might have got the credit card itself. So in that case, he might use that credit card for its own purpose. So that is the types of the financial fraud. And then we are having the identity theft, another kind of a cyber crime where a person tries to impersonate as someone else by using the information of other person. So in this a kind of a crime, a person tries to try to show that he is someone else, and by doing that he does some kind of a criminal activity like the financial identity theft, criminal identity theft, job identity theft, and the social identity theft, which are the types of the identity theft. In the financial identity theft, what happens, a particular person tries to be another person, and he goes to the bank, and what he does is put the fake signature of the particular person whose name is whose on whose name the account is being created, and we try to get the amount of money from that particular account. It's a financial identity theft. Criminal identity theft is that some person has created another person has created has committed a crime, and the name pop-ups of some another person who was not involved in that crime. So how it had happened, because the person who has committed the crime, he has impersonate as someone else. So because of that, the another person names who was not involved at all in that crime, his names comes up in the crime. Job identity theft is something where a particular person attend the interview in the name of someone else and he get the job. Social identity theft is is prevalent on the social media. Nowadays we are having various kinds of social media like a Facebook, we are having the WhatsApp or the Twitters. Now the people create the account's name by using the name of some another person, maybe the prominent personality. So whatever the kind of message that have been posted by the fake account name, so the particular person in whose name that account is created, his image gets affected. So that is the problem with the social identity theft. Another type of a crime, cyber crime, is a cyberbullying. Cyberbullying involves the harassment using the electronic means. So in this cyberbullying, sending where the particular cyber criminal sends or posts some rumors about an individual. So by using the electronic means, so there's some kind of a rumors are being sent. Then by using the abusive language, some abusive language is being posted on the wall of someone, on the Facebook wall of some person who is using the Facebook. So he gets harassed into that. Then impersonation, creating some fake account in the name of someone else. Exclusion is something what a particular, nowadays we are having the social groups on the various social media like WhatsApp group, we are having them, Facebook group also are there. So suppose forcefully taking out or kicking out someone from the group, so it creates a negative mind thoughts in the minds of the person who got kicked out of the group, and that is a kind of harassment also. So these are the types of the particular cyber crimes like a cyberbullying. Then there is one more, that is industrial espionage kinds of cyber crime. So in the industrial espionage, the industrial trade secrets or the sensitive information are being stolen. So this information can be stolen by either by the malicious insider who works in that organization, and they sides with the external actors, and they send that information, sensitive information, to the this handler. In the external act, the industrial espionage can also be caused by the external actors who break the security of the system or networks and gather the sensitive information. Then it can be also caused by the malicious software like a Trojan horse, which gathers the kind of key patterns we are clicking on using your keyboard. What are the keylogger it is having, like a keylogger also logs our key patterns. So that is the kind of malicious software, and they may send the sensitive information. Phone tapping or the wiretapping is performed to hear the important conversation between the employee of an organization and some another person. So that way also the sensitive information can be received by the external actors. Now we'll see what are the types of the digital forensics. So the digital forensics can be categorized into various subcategories. Like one is the software forensics. Is here we are performing analysis of source code or binary code to determine intellectual property infringement or the theft. So by using the software forensics, the binary code of a software may be are being analyzed. So that the property intellectual property infringement or the theft can be detected. So we can do it for the operating system, also for the application program, because the application program, if it is being created by using the base of some another program, the code source code of some another program have been copied as it is, and then it is being used to create some another application program. So it is something kind of a crime, and that particular crime can be detected by performing the software forensics. Then the memory forensics, here we are performing analysis of memory storage to find out the evidence of crime and the criminal. So the memory forensics mainly deals with the volatile memory forensics and the non-volatile memory forensics. In the volatile memory forensics, we are performing the analysis of volatile memory structure. So by performing the analysis of volatile memory structure, we can reconstruct the user activity that have been performed by the users on the system. So whenever a particular process is being created, so that particular process certainly it is going to be open, is going to run in the volatile memory. The operating system creates a particular various process structure for that running process. By analysis of that particular process structure, we can get the valuable information about what kind of activity was being performed by the user on the system. So for that purpose, we are required to take the dump of the volatile memory. Non-volatile memory forensics involves the various memory structures such as file and registry database in case of Windows. So the files which are scattered on the hard disk, because non-volatile memory example is hard disk. So here directly the analysis of that particular hard disk is being performed, and by analysis of the various files, so we can the forensic investigator can get the valuable information about the activity which was being performed on that system. Similarly, the registry, which is a database, so that registry configuration database maintains about the activity of the user on that system. So in the next video that I will be having after this particular video, so I will be covering the talk on the digital forensic investigation of Windows registry. Then another is the internet forensics. So it involves the analysis of web browser log files, network packets, and the email headers. So this internet forensics can also be subdivided into the web browser forensics, network forensics, and the email forensics. So from the name itself, one can understand what we are going to do in the web browser forensics. Well, certainly we are going to perform the browser investigation. As we know that on a particular system can have so many web browser being installed like a Google Chrome, Opera, Mozilla Firefox, Vivaldi. So every web browser, when they are being installed, they creates a log files onto the system. So the activity that you have been done by the web browser, they are being recorded onto that particular web browsers. So whenever you perform some activity like that, as accessing a particular URL, okay, or maybe downloading some files, so those information are registered with the log files. So if those details are not deleted, then the forensic investigator can easily get the information from that log files. Network forensics is related to the analysis of the network packets, which goes from the system via the networks or via the internet to the server, from one system to another system. Then email forensics involve the forensic investigation of the email header to know about the source and the destination of the email. Database forensics involve the examination of database and its metadata. Then mobile phone forensics, which is the latest kinds of forensics, which involve the recovery of data from the mobile devices to get the digital evidence. So the mobile phone, they maintains the information in a kind of a database, SQL database, and from there we can get lots of information about the activity that have been conducted using the mobile phone. Like you can get the information about the contact details. Also, we can get all the details about from the SQLite database the activity that have been performed by the user using the phone. Like you are having the Google or any kind of web browser, so certainly the logs are going to be maintained on the mobile phone storage. So that can be retrieve by using the bulk 1.6, and the analysis of that will help the forensic investigator in getting the some evidence from that. Then the cloud forensic, which also is the latest the sub branch of the digital forensics, where we are gathering the evidence from the cloud storage and also from the cloud logs. IoT forensics involves the gathering the evidence from the IoT application. Nowadays we are having the Internet of Things kind of devices, but they are having the small storage capacity. So the forensic investigation of that particular IoT device is a big challenge. So instead of that, the particular mobile application, like if you take the example of a via IoT camera, IoT smart camera. So for that purpose, we require via IoT application. So if you do the investigation of the IoT via IoT application, we can get what was being done, what are the things that have been recorded by the smart IoT camera. Will be able to see by using that IoT application. So the forensic investigator can focus on those kinds of application to know to get some evidence. Now, what are the digital forensic steps when a particular forensic investigator is required to follow a particular process in order to do the forensic investigation? So, what are the steps which has been followed by the forensic investigator? We'll discuss in this particular slide. So, identification, preservation, analysis, then documentation and presentation are the forensic steps which have been followed by the forensic investigator while doing the investigation. Identification, in this step, identifying the device storing the evidence. So the particular forensic investigator is required to identify what kind of storage device will provide the information, maybe the hard disk or maybe the volatile memory or any other kind of a physical media like a USB storage. So those devices are required to be identified from where the particular forensic investigator can get the required information. Maybe the digital evidence from those storage device can be identified. Then another step that has to be followed by the forensic investigator is about preserving those devices. That means providing the security and maintaining the integrity of that particular devices is important, so that the tampering of the information on that particular device should not happen, storage device should not happen. So the information is required to be preserved, and also the security is required, physical security is required to be provided to those storage, and also there is required to extract the digital evidence from those particular devices. Then once the evidence are extracted by the forensic investigator, they are required to be analyzed, and from the analysis a conclusion can be drawn by the forensic investigator from the digital evidence that have been extracted from the storage device, like what had happened, how it was committed, who might have committed. So that kind of result will be of the analysis stage. Then finally, then is about a documentation where a timeline of the evidence to reconstruct the crime scene will be created by the particular forensic investigator. So whatever the finding he has made by the forensic investigator, so that is required to be well documented. So with respect to the time, what he has identified and how that the crime had occurred, so that can be documented by the investigator. Finally, it's about the presentation. So a kind of a presentation is required to be made by the forensic investigator, so that that particular presentation can be will be shown in the court of the law, so that the particular perpetrator of the crime can be punished by the court. So these are the various steps as part of the digital forensic process which has to be followed by the forensic investigator. Now, what are the source, digital evidence source where a particular forensic investigator can get the digital evidence? So digital evidence are actually the digital information related to the activity by the cyber criminal recorded on the storage device or in the forms of network packets. So digital evidence is nothing but the information which gets recorded on the storage devices. What are the activity that will be performed by the particular user or maybe the criminal, so that particular activity is going to be registered or is going to be maintained by the storage device. So if you perform the proper analysis of those storage device, then the forensic investigator can get the information from that, the digital evidence. Then what are the stores? Like a non-volatile memory is one of the source. Like example is hard disk. Volatile memory example is a random access memory. Then network packets, like then router maintains the routing table from where you can get about the information about how the particular packets had moved from one hop to the another. So from there, the route that have been followed by a network package to reach to the destination can be traced. Also, the source and the destination IP address of the particular packets which are being routed onto the network can be identified by the forensic investigator. Mobile device maintain the information in the forms of SQLite database. Also nowadays the live volatile memory analysis of the mobile is also possible. So dump if let's say the mobile is not opening. Okay, suppose a particular mobile have been found out of the criminal activity, and that particular mobile is locked. So we can perform the live dump analysis of that particular mobile device. So from where we can get the actual information what the activity was being done by the user on using the mobile. Then the cloud storage, like the servers where the particular the data is stored, cloud data is stored, also the logs of that particular server, so that are also the prominent sources of the digital evidence. Now what kinds of tools that have been used by the digital forensic investigator? Now I have listed out few tools, only few tools have been listed. There are many more tools with respect to each of the category of the digital forensics. For the software forensic, for perform the operating system forensics and the application program forensics, Fossology and the GPG are some of the tools. The Fossology, this tool maintains find out the license management and the users. How many users are available for a particular application program. By using the GPG kind of tool, the authenticity of that particular program can be detected. Authenticity and the integrity of that particular application program or the particular source code can be detected. Memory forensics, for the memory forensics we are having the two categories like volatile memory and non-volatile memory forensics. Volatility, OS forensics and the WinDBG are the tools which are used with for doing the volatile memory forensics. Volatility supports various kinds of plugin. So by using that particular plugin we can extract so many information from the volatile memory dump. OS forensics, this particular tool is being used for the when we are dump the particular volatile memory for physically analyzing the volatile memory. That task can be done by using the OS forensic tool. Okay, so volatility do it automatically by using the plugin. By the OS forensics, we can go through the particular volatile memory dump manually, and we can identify the evidence from that. WinDBG, this Windows debugger tool is used for performing the live analysis of the volatile memory. So this is certainly is used for the Windows, and for the non-volatile memory forensics, where the tools as the autopsy, sleuthkit, and the ProDiscover. So they are doing the various tasks like finding out the missing files, deleted files. So those things are being done, also the recovering the files. So that is being done by the autopsy and the sleuthkit. Then the internet forensics, for this where the web browser forensics, network forensics. So these are the tools which are listed for these kinds of forensics. Wireshark is a tool which capture the network packets. Now for the database forensics, DF toolkit is being used, and for the mobile phone forensics, Celebrite and the XRY, these kinds of tools are being used. Cloud forensics, Ghost, UFLD, Cloud Analyzer, and for the IT forensics, there are not any such tools which have been developed so far, as per my knowledge. And YIOT for Smart Camera is one of the particular application program from where we can get the particular videos that have been sent by the IoT Smart Camera. So thanks for watching the video. I will be having the next video on the Windows registry forensics, and if you have liked this particular video, please click the notification button in order to get the notification of the further future video that is going to come, that is about the Windows registry forensics. You click on the subscriber button so that you can get the immediate notification about the next video that is going to come on the Windows registry forensics. Thank you.